Hello, music fans, and more specifically, fans of metal, rock, and progressive music. Welcome back to another segment of What's New 2023, where I talk about new albums that came out over the past week or so in metal, rock, and progressive music. And today I'm going to talk about Sleep Token, but I'm also going to talk about 8 albums that I like even better than the new Sleep Token album. I know a lot of people are talking about Sleep Token on YouTube, and I think there's some other great stuff that came out that I want to shine the spotlight on that I find even better than that. Let's start off, and I'll talk about them in my order of preference, starting with my favorite album from May 19th, which was The Ocean and Holocene. This is progressive post-metal with sludge metal influences, and it's the 10th album by this German band. Everything they've put out so far in their career has been great, and while I don't think this is their best work, it continues their streak of greatness. It's not their worst either. It's in the upper half of their catalog, I'd say. This is for fans of Cult of Luna and Hypnos. It's got a very atmospheric and hypnotic vibe to it. As far as I recall from their discography, I think this is actually maybe the second softest album they've ever made. The vast majority of the vocals on here are clean and melodic. The music is slow, peaceful, beautiful, ambient, and hypnotic. There are a handful of moments with harsh vocals where it gets a lot heavier though, so you have to be ready for and okay with that. And there is a dark atmosphere to this whole album. My favorite track was Atlantic. I like the slow burn build up, and I like the horns on that track as well as the heavy parts near the end. Those are great too. My second favorite was Parabiosis. Next I want to talk about Yes and Mirror to the Sky. This is progressive rock. It's their 23rd album. They're a British band. They're one of the most popular and best prog rock bands that rose to heights during the classic 70s era of prog rock. And I think this is a great step up from their last two albums, The Quest and Heaven and Earth, but it's just still not on the same level for me as the classic 70s albums. However, it's pretty good for this new lineup. My favorite track is the title track, Mirror to the Sky. And my second favorite is Cut from the Stars. Mirror to the Sky is like a almost 14-minute epic track, so it's cool to see them doing longer track lengths again and almost crossing the 15-minute mark. Next, I want to talk about Dave Matthews Band and Walk Around the Moon. This is alternative rock with jazz, folk, indie, world music influences. It's the 10th album by this American band, and I like everything Dave Matthews Band has done, but particularly I really like their last 3 albums. I think they're on a bit of a hot streak with those. I'm probably a bit weird in my Dave Matthews Band tastes and preferences compared to most people. I think a lot of people like the old stuff more, but I like the new stuff more. And this might relate to when I got into Dave Matthews Band, which was in 2009 with their third most recent album, and when that came out, and that still is my favorite since that's the first one that I got into. I think it's Big Whiskey and the Grugrux King. But this new album is great as well. Walk Around the Moon. My favorite tracks are Madman's Eyes, which is a solid track with a bit of a Middle Eastern vibe to it. And my next favorite is The Only Thing, which is has a great chorus where he hits some pretty awesome high notes and just a really great melody to that one. Next, I want to talk about an album that actually came out on May 15th, not May 19th, by a band called Mystery, and the album's called Redemption. This is progressive rock with symphonic and hard rock influences, and it's the 8th album by this Canadian band. Gotta represent my fellow Canadians. If you're a fan of Rush, you'll probably like this. It's also got a sprinkle of Yes and Styx in there. And this album also has a great 19-minute prog epic as the closing track. So check it out if you're a fan of prog epics. I think progressive rock fans will really enjoy this album. It's also really melodic, and it's not like really out there avant-garde prog rock. It's pretty accessible, pretty easy listening. I think even fans of kind of pop rock or traditional hard rock would like this Radio Rocks stuff because it's very melodic. On May 19th, another great one came out by a band. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. Ring of Gyges? Gyges? I should have looked this up before. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. It's spelled Ring of and then Gyges. And the album's called Metamorphosis. And this is progressive metal, kind of on the border between progressive metal and progressive rock. It's not super heavy, but there are a couple extreme parts. It's the second album by this Icelandic band. I heard the single Parasite, and I immediately had to add this album to my list of albums to check out, as it sounds right up my alley. And the vocals from Ring of Gyges, I'm just going to say Gyges from now on until I look it up and correct myself. The vocals are almost all clean singing, though there is the odd scream. The vocal styles sound a little bit like post-hardcore and emo sometimes. The guitar and keyboard riffs, they're all pretty cool. There's some cool polymeter, odd time signatures, time signature changes and stuff like that, but they also aren't afraid to keep some of the songs just simple and melodic and to the point and stay in 4/4 for a long time, repeat, have traditional song structures. So another one where there's a lot of catchy moments that people even who aren't into as adventurous, progressive, and quirky music could be into this as well. Another one on May 19th. I think all the rest of the ones I'm going to talk about today are May 19th, and there's still a few. Arjen Lucassen's Supersonic Revolution and their album Golden Age of Music. This is kind of progressive rock, but also maybe a little bit more just traditional hard rock and heavy metal. It's the first album by this new project of Arjen Lucassen, but he's well known from Arion and Star One fame. He's involved in a lot of musical projects, but those are kind of the main two that I listen to quite a bit. This album, Golden Age of Music, is inspired by music from the 70s, from prog to heavy rock to glam, and the lyrics celebrate memorable things from those times. I heard the first single, The Glam Attack, which, despite the name, actually reminded me more of Deep Purple combined with Yes, rather than any glam music. The rest of the album is pretty hard rocking, lots of cool guitar riffs, fast guitar runs between sections, pinch harmonics, just groovy beats and stuff like that. The album is really just a fun, good time. The lyrics and the vocal delivery have a bit of cheesiness to them, so you have to be able to handle that cheesiness factor that is pretty typical with Arjen Lucassen's projects, as he does things with Arion and Star One, like progressive rock operas that have kind of cheesy stories and a bunch of different characters. This is different for him because it's the same band, the same vocalist the whole time, but it still has that cheesiness factor, of course. I still think it's great. Not quite great enough to make my year-end top 40 or 50 list or anything, but still a really fun time. Got two more albums to mention that are better than Sleep Token for me. The Murlocs with Calm Ya Farm. This is blues rock with folk, country, pop, and psychedelic influences. It's the 7th album by this Australian band. It features members from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, as well as Orb. And this is just catchy, bluesy songs with cool guitar riffs, harmonica parts, very recognizable vocals for fans of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. If you're a fan of King Gizzard's album Fishing for Fishies, I think you'll like this one. And last one to mention before Sleep Token is Blindfolded and Led to the Woods. which is Rejecting Obliteration. Rejecting Obliteration is the album name. Blindfolded and Led to the Woods is the band name. Quite a long band name, but I think that's trendy sometimes to have a long band name. This is technical death metal. It's got some progressive and avant-garde influences in there. And it's the fourth album from this band from Christchurch, New Zealand. I listened to the early release single Methlehem, which I'm assuming is like a combination of meth and Bethlehem. Fun wordplay. And it was intensely heavy and brutal for fans of bands like The Faceless, Obscura, and Allegion, but a little bit more genty and groovy guitar playing than those bands. So yeah, it's kind of spastic and tech death and crazy chaos and technical guitar playing, but there is a little bit of a groove to it. You can bob your head. There's some genty rhythms too. Pretty fun listen. Probably won't make my end of year list, of course. There's been a lot of great music this year, but definitely check this out if you're into technical death metal. Not for people who can't handle very extreme vocals, though. It has a lot of that. Now we'll get to Sleep Token with their album Take Me Back to Eden. And this one's very hard to describe genre-wise, as it's very all over the place, but honestly, the vast majority of it, to me, is just pop rock. It's got alternative metal, metalcore, some maybe almost black metal like for a couple seconds, post-metal. There's some like hip-hop beats and like trap beat sounds in the production. Of course, a lot of pop, radio pop sounds and the melodies and some progressive influences. It's the third album by this British band, and they have a very unique blend of styles that makes them very accessible to the masses with their catchy melodies and slick production, but it's also appealing to metalheads with their heaviness and appealing to progressive music fans and music snobs as well who value innovation and unique boundary-pushing songs. But essentially this is just pop music with some metal breakdowns. If you want to describe it in like a couple words, that's pretty much it. Pop with metal breakdowns. But there's different styles thrown in from time to time as well. I think it's really catchy, well-written, well-produced, but has a little bit too much of that shiny pop and hip-hop sounds for my taste. I would prefer if it had a little less of that and more of the metal or progressive side. I still think it's good. I just wanted to highlight a bunch of albums that I enjoy more, so that's why I kind of taking the piss out of this one a little bit. But it's pretty good, not great enough to be in my year-end top 40 or 50. But I'd be curious to hear what they do next. I think if you're a fan of the newer stuff by Bring Me the Horizon or Architects, you'll like this. And let's do some bonus releases, because there's still 3 more things that I listened to that came out on May 19th. Not quite on the level of Sleep Token or those other ones that I mentioned, but still worth listening to if you like the sounds of these. There's one by a group called, well, it's not a group, it's a one-man solo project called SHRVL, and the album's called Limbus, and this is instrumental ambient electronic with post-metal and progressive influences. It's the first full-length album by this project by Peter Voigtman, who plays synthesizers in the ocean. And this is instrumental, ambient, atmospheric electronic music. If you're a fan of the atmosphere of the ocean and just want to hear that sound without the heavy guitars, bass, and drums and vocals, I think you'll like this. And the last track is a 24-minute epic. So if you like just kind of getting lost in an epic soundscape, I think you'll enjoy this. I don't know if you could hear some honking out and sirens outside my window, but apologies for that. 2 more that I'm going to talk about. I know this is a long video, but there's a lot of great music that came out, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned it here for all you fine people who have the patience to sit through this entire video. I want to reward you with a lot of music recommendations. And definitely also let me know if I missed anything that you think I'll enjoy, or let me know what you think about these albums down in the comments too. Ghost released a covers EP called Phantomime. This is heavy metal, hard rock, kind of on the border between those. And this EP has 5 covers. Ghost covers songs by Genesis, Iron Maiden, Tina Turner, The Stranglers, and Television. They're all very well done covers, really well produced. I don't usually consider covers albums essential listening, with a couple exceptions. I really like The Anatomy of by Between the Buried and Me. This is not one of those exceptions. It's really non-essential, but it is cool if you're a fan of Ghost and you want to hear them cover these songs. They do a good job. My favorites on the album are the Genesis and Iron Maiden covers, Jesus, He Knows Me, and Phantom of the Opera. And last one I'm going to mention in the video, as this is probably one of my longest What's New 2023 videos, is The Used and Toxic Positivity. This is post-hardcore with alternative rock, pop punk, emo, and screamo influences. It's the 9th album by this American band. The Used is sounding very emo here, but catchy. The vocals remind me of Ronnie Radke from his work in Escape the Fate and Falling in Reverse. So if you like those bands, you might like this. It's mostly like pop punk style singing, but there's the odd scream thrown in here and there. There are some riffs that sound almost like metal. My favorite track on first listen was Dopamine. I thought that was really catchy. I probably won't go back to or listen to this album ever again, but it is cool for people who like that kind of old school post-hardcore emo screamo pop punk blend. You might enjoy this. And that's it for new albums that I checked over the past week. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Give me other suggestions. I look forward to hearing them. Until next time, peace out.